And one of the best advice that I got from one of my professors was, early in your career, never say no. Always say yes. Always say yes to go clean the toilet. Always go say yes that you're going to go to this event. Always say yes, because the more present you are, the more face-to-face you have, the more you're seeing, the more the upper leadership sees you, right?
It goes a long ways for you.
Yeah, one thing that with a lot of the time management gurus, they talk about saying no. You gotta be able to say no. I think that's correct, but I think in the early parts of your career, right when you get to that tipping point, you have to be able to say yes. But once you get to that point, I mean, if you're taking on and you're starting to mentor people, leading people, yes, you have to learn how to say no.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the CM Mentors Podcast. My name is Matt Graves, and my co-host each week is Kyle Grandell. This week's guest is Marty Schmitt, and we'll be talking all about taking control of your career growth and creating your own opportunities. If just a reminder to anybody in the audience, feel free to ask questions in the chat box, or hopefully maybe this week we'll get a call-in guest. So hit the call-in, and we'll have more of a Q&A at the end. But as we're going, feel free to chime in with any of your questions. What's going on, Marty?
Not much. How are you guys?
Good,
man.
Nice to meet you, Marty.
Yes, nice meeting you too. Appreciate it, Kyle. Thank you, Matt, for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for carving out some time and joining us. This will be fun.
Yeah.
So before we get started, we're recording this the Monday after the Super Bowl. You're from the Philly area. How you doing?
Yep. I'm all right. It was definitely a disappointing loss, especially because the Phillies lost earlier late last year. The Eagles lost, so we're getting to the championship. We're just not winning the championship, so it was tough.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
That's right. Whatever it is. That's for
Man,
sure.
that kick return really hurt you guys. I just got to say that hurt.
Yes, it did. It definitely did. And then Hurts fumbling the ball and then returning it. That didn't help either. So
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess. Anyway, back on script.
Yeah.
Marty, you want to give us a little bit of a background for yourself for the people who don't know you?
Sure. Marty Schmitt, currently the president of AGCM. Some of my background, I started in the construction industry right out of college. I went to school in Boston, and I started on the Big Dig project, one of the larger civil projects in the U.S. at the time, and spent a lot of time around the civil side, so a lot of concrete, heavy civil. From there, I transferred to New York, and I worked on a few subway stations, underground T stations and subway stations. Then I was fortunate to be able to transfer to Ingleside, which is right outside of Corpus Christi, Texas. And I moved down here in 2002, and what I did there was coming from the Kiewit, they kind of had a Kiewit way, and being able to try to instill some of the Kiewit ways into a new market. And it was Kiewit Offshore Services, which was an offshore services company, which we built a lot of offshore rigs, but we built them on site and then just shipped them off site. So we were more of the fabricator. And then I left there and came on with AGCM in 2008. And I've been here since. Started off as assistant city engineer at the city of Corpus Christi, doing inspections, working in their construction department, and then worked my way up to working at Texas A&M System in Corpus Christi, managing some of their projects out there. Then in 2014, had the opportunity to move to Houston and help start our East Texas region. And from there, we've been building out the Houston region. And like I mentioned, last January, so just a little more than a year, I was promoted to president and COO at AGCM.
What got you into construction, Marty?
Sixth grade, I wanted to be an architect, and I wanted to be an architect all the way to college. And then I got into my freshman year of college and realized I wanted nothing to do with architecture. I didn't want to be sitting behind a screen. And at the time, my girlfriend was in architecture, and she was pulling all kinds of late nights, early morning, building these, popsicle stick things. I'm like, man, this is not for me. And so I quickly transferred out of that and got into construction management. So construction, just, my dad was in construction, just always loved the big trucks, construction equipment. So just always loved the dirt.
I definitely
Sound
get
like
that.
my boys.
Yeah, that's right. You got to start them early.
Oh, they love it. I like to bring them out to the job site, especially when we have a crane, and let them watch the crane, and that's the highlight of their year when that happens.
Absolutely. Love it.
It's actually funny, I mean, talking about you got out of architecture because you're like, screw this. That's kind of my story where I did civil engineering. I got halfway through engineering school and was like, I do not want to be an engineer. Like, I don't want to be cranking numbers out and doing that sort of stuff. And I looked at transferring, but then I realized you could specialize your senior year, and I specialized in construction management. And so that's...
Well, so to finish the story, my first semester was architecture. The second semester was civil engineering. And then my sophomore year, I was like, I'm out of both civil engineering and architecture. And that's when I went to construction management. So I did the same thing. I went into civil engineering and I was like, man, no, I'm still behind a computer screen all day long. I said, I don't want this. So yeah, got into construction management. So, best decision I could make.
I'd be the worst architect because my creativity level, like if you draw a house, it's just the square with the triangle top and then the square door and 2 square windows. It's just that's
perfect.
Well, and in contrast to you guys, I went through and got the engineering degree, but then afterwards figured out, this isn't really for me. So that's how I got into construction management. But hey, it all works out.
That's right, for sure.
So the topic we're really kind of diving in on today, Marty, is taking control of your career growth and creating your own opportunities. When you kind of came over to AGCM, it was a lot smaller company. We've grown quite a bit since then. Kind of what is, this podcast is really kind of for the next generation, and really kind of anybody coming up through the industry. And there's a lot of companies out there, a lot of small companies, whether general contractors, subcontractors, owners reps like we are, anything. There could be a lot of people who might be discouraged. They may be working for a company they love and a culture they love, but they may be kind of discouraged because there's no seats available, right? Unless the owner of the company retires or something like that, right? So, what's a little bit of guidance you could give somebody like that who's, looking to move up, looking to, become a leader in their company, but there's no seats open for them?
Sure. I guess you can go down 2 avenues. You can go down the small company, and then you can go down the larger company. Working at Kiewit was 20,000 plus employees versus working at AGCM when I started was 26 employees. The small company aspect of it is there's much more, I believe, there's much more opportunities to create your future. In those situations, there's a lot more that sometimes a smaller business does not do, that having an entrepreneurial spirit, you can bring that to them, whether it's documentation, whether it's some kind of process, some kind of procedure. There's so many opportunities. And one of the best advice that I got from one of my professors was, early in your career, never say no. Always say yes. Always say yes to go clean a toilet. Always go say yes that you're going to go to this event. Always say yes, because the more present you are, the more face-to-face you have, the more you're seen, the more the kind of the upper leadership sees you, right? Kind of going to the larger company at Kiewit, everyone's always afraid you're going to be a number, not a name, right? And I think, again, it's kind of the same thing. You have to step above. It's not stepping on people. You just have to make yourself be seen and be present. And whatever that may be in a larger company, some of those larger companies, they have the policies, they have the procedures. But is there a better way of doing things? Is there things that you're going to volunteer for? I think these same opportunities lie with both a smaller company and a larger company.
Very well said. And Matt, I think we talked about that with Angelo a little bit too, was about the saying yes to things and being open to trying new things, especially if you're uncomfortable. I mean, it grows yourself as well.
Yeah. We do with Shelley too. I think this is the theme of our whole podcast now.
There we go. We got it. We finally figured it out.
But I think it just kind of nails on that, though, that just how important that is. Whether you're kind of building a personal brand, maybe online or whatever, like kind of Shelley was talking about, or whether you're doing it like within your company, just kind of always putting yourself out there, always saying yes, always being available. It goes a long ways for you.
Yeah, one thing that with a lot of the time management gurus, they talk about saying no. You gotta be able to say no. I think that's correct, but I think in the early parts of your career, right when you get to that tipping point, you have to be able to say yes. But once you get to that point, I mean, if you're taking on and you're starting to mentor people, leading people, yes, you have to learn how to say no. And that's always been a hard thing for me to do, but I think you have to be able to focus on yourself. You have to be able to focus on you being a mentor and being able to lead. That's what's really going to get you there.
Very well said. Yeah. and I can just, all I can do, Marty, is just keep agreeing with you on that stuff, because that's kind of what's led me to different opportunities and different things in my career. I mean, like I said, I started out in engineering. I ended up getting into construction management just through some networking, and that networking was from opportunities and different projects that I was sent to, that if I hadn't said yes to those projects, it wouldn't have connected A to B and B to C.
Yeah. Oh, so true.
Yeah, very well said.
Sorry guys, I'm fooling with the settings here. The video keeps going in and out. It's choppy for me.
Hey, you're really throwing me off here, man.
Yeah,
I came into this all prepared, ready to go. All right, from the top. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
Downside of doing it live.
Yes. Yeah.
So aside from that, Marty, I mean, if you're with what are like maybe 3 actionable things aside from, kind of putting yourself out there that, somebody could do to kind of grow their career?
I think 3 actionable things that you could do.
He was wanting me to give him questions beforehand, and I
yeah, and he didn't give me questions beforehand, so now he definitely put me on the spot. Love it. I guess one thing, actionable thing that I like. Here's a piece that I like is, it's meant more to me as I've grown within the company, is I would much rather have someone come to me. You can come to me with problems all day long, but if you attach a solution or a thought that you've done something, or you've looked into something or researched something into it, that has so much more value to me and to the others on the leadership team. So I think that's something very actionable. If you see something wrong, if you see something that's broke, or something that could be more efficient, I think it's about not just throwing the problem out there, but actually bringing a solution, a potential solution to it. Does that kind of answer the question of what you're thinking? An actionable step or no?
I think so. I mean, I can't speak for you, Matt, but to me, that's a great answer, because that also shows a lot of things too. That shows your initiative, that shows that you're bought in, and that you're putting your best effort out there. And it also kind of goes back to adding that value and standing out a little bit, and also, I mean, God forbid you help your boss on things too, right? Not just bring them problems, but you bring solutions, right, and you make some suggestions. And for somebody in your position, higher up, that it also helps to understand kind of the thinking and the thought process behind the people that are presenting your problems to you, in my opinion. So sounds good to me.
Kyle, you're going to have to carry us. I keep losing my audio.
Hey, what else is new? I'm used to it.
No, I think something else, that's actionable would be, something we started probably really getting into was creating job descriptions. We were horrible about having like actual full-blown laid out job descriptions, and going through them and having, the employee actually going through the job description and seeing what's on there, not just being thrown to them, but actually let's review it together. Let's see if there's kind of an exercise I like to do is I like to hand over the job description and say, okay, highlight in green, yellow, and red. Green, what do you think you're doing well? Yellow, that you need some help on. And then red, what you're not doing well, or what you're not having the opportunity to do. And then I'll do the same thing, right? And then when we come together, it's more of a gap analysis. Are we seeing the same things from both perspectives? And I think that's what it does. It creates that conversation you can have, an open conversation. I mean, I think from a supervisor to an employee, you've got to be able to have those candid conversations. And that definitely opens the door to do that. And I found that to be very valuable with people that I've worked with in the past, because it does just that. It creates that conversation that you really want to have, but you're always afraid to have. And then for me, it helps you be self-aware. Like, man, I really thought I was good at something, and my boss didn't think I was that great at it. And it really makes you think about it, so then you can put it on your development plan of how to get better at it. So I think that's a pretty good actionable step as well, is kind of taking that. Now, some of the larger companies, that's probably something you're going to have to initiate with your boss, not the other way around. But I think in a smaller company, you might have that opportunity to do that. So I think that's another good action step as well. Still there, Matt?
You up?
I've worked for a few small companies, AGCM and a few others. Sorry, my audio keeps cutting out on me.
No worries.
But, I mean, AGCM's been awesome with it, but a couple of the other companies, you've really had to sort of take that initiative on your own, too, and really sit down with your boss and, because the smaller companies, their hair may be on fire because they may be really, filling 2 or 3 roles within the company. So if you're going to want to, have that conversation, sometimes you just got to take it and run with it.
Absolutely. Well, Marty, are there any growing pains or any stories you'd want to share about just some of the stuff you've gone through, or anything that you think would be helpful for kind of these younger generations as they are implementing some of these steps and some of these ideas?
Yeah, I think some of growing pains, at least some of those growing pains that we've gone through at AGCM is the growth. When I hired on, I was a 26th employee to come on. Currently, we're at 69, and with some consultants, we're right around 76 employees. So we've had some pretty good growth over the last 15 years, and a lot of that growth has really happened probably in the last 6 years. So I'd say, for individuals that have coming into a company, a smaller company, is help. What you possibly can is help the collaboration and the communication. I think one thing that we struggled with was we grew fast, but we grew in silos. And being able to break down those barriers and break down those walls where there's communication going
but Marty,
back and forth and all around, I think is definitely
turning off the video.
Everybody's video? When Kyle has ... does that mean he's there or he's not there?
Matt, I don't know if you're talking or...
No, we lost Marty, okay. I think.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Oh, good. Sorry. Okay. Well,
nope.
I turned off the video so that it said it was low data mode and it was cutting out.
Oh, it happens. But I was just going to add my 2 cents in there. Yep, we hear you, Marty.
Can you hear us, Marty?
I can hear you, yeah. Definitely can hear you.
The joys of live.
Again, we are professionals. Well, and I was just going to say that along the lines of where Marty's going, as teams are growing, something that I experienced even when I went to work at Wank here in Minneapolis. I think our team was about five or six, maybe a little bit bigger than that. And then over the year and a half I was there, I think we grew up to about 20, maybe a little more than 20 or so. And there's always those stages of a new team as it comes together. They say form, storm, norm, perform. And getting through those stages quickly and efficiently is what they say is a really big key driver to making a successful team. And just Marty, to your points about coming on board and applying how you can help out and help the team, I think it's just really another really great key point for that.
Marty may be gone. So Kyle, as you kind of changed careers a couple times, and then all the way, to now owning your own business. What are some actionable items you have where, you may have tried to, grow your career through really creating your own opportunities and grow your career? Just kind of, what are some of your takeaways?
We've talked about the good ones already. I mean, saying yes to things, being open to new ideas, that's the biggest one, because that just opens up doors that you never even thought you would do. I mean, honestly, Matt, this podcast thing is something I never even planned to do a year ago. And then you and I talked and you brought it up. It's like, well, why not? Let's give it a shot. So just being open to new ideas and putting yourself out there. And I think a lot of people know, and it's talked about in the industry a lot, especially in personal growth and professional growth, just go ahead and be okay with being uncomfortable, trying new things, kind of putting yourself out there a little bit. I mean, within reason, of course, but I mean, because there's certainly a limit, I think, of how far you want to stick your neck out for something that you have no idea what you're doing. But being a little bit uncomfortable, learning and growing from that is, to me, a really big driver. And then, also, Marty also touched on the communication part. That's huge. Helping to make communication better amongst your team and amongst your group. That's also a big part of it too. I've had times where we've had some inter-team challenges, communication breakdowns for whatever reason. Maybe it was the client and the way they're communicating with the wrong people or how they were doing it. But I've even acted as kind of more or less a mediator, getting involved and stepping in and just helping on the relationship side of things too. So, I was looking at it from those different aspects of how can I help the communication amongst the team. I think that's a big one too, if that answers your question.
I think so. I think we got Marty coming back in. He thought I kicked him off. I guess he thought I didn't like his answers.
Can you hear me now?
But yeah, no, I think too, just always, especially, if you're a, say entry level construction manager coming in, maybe you're working for a company and, you may not be getting a lot of, a lot of responsibility off the start, right? They may just have you filing submittals or writing RFIs or the boring stuff. And so kind of asking for more responsibility, asking for more, like, hey, what else can I do? Or just kind of jumping in and, taking something off the plate of, the project manager.
That's another really good point is like you're saying there about asking for, not just asking for help, but like you're saying, asking for more responsibility, because we all know how busy we get doing our own thing, and sometimes your managers can have trouble exactly seeing what's going on too. They got several people, if not more, that they're managing. So sometimes you have to take the initiative. You got to just go into their office and close the door and say, here's what I want to do, and here's how I want to get there, and here's where I need you to help.
Marty says he can see and hear us. I think he's in the audience.
Well, tell him to call in then.
Can you do a call in, Marty? For weeks I've been waiting for this to be a train wreck, and I thought it was going to be episode 0. I didn't know it was going to be episode 3 or 4.
Well, again, we're professionals, so you should expect a lot better if you're tuning into this.
I'm what to make this a blooper reel. I said, can you call in? He says, LOL, how?
Who are you rooting for on Sunday, Matt?
Kansas City, probably.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a dog in either hunt, but I got some buddies that, Patrick Home went to Texas Tech, and I have some buddies that went to Texas Tech, and they're big Tech fans, so they're a fun team to watch.
Oh, they're so fun. And just like you, I didn't really have any, skin in the game with this one, but I'm definitely Mahomes fan. And, just watching him play through injuries the previous games, just like, all right, if somebody's going to pull this off, it'll be him. And sure enough.
Yeah, me and my buddies were joking that, how the whole, it's kind of been a running Twitter joke as well about how the NFL scripted and stuff. And I kept just saying, yep, here they go. He's going to get hurt at halftime and come back down and have a heroic ankle, game. And it's going to be his defining moment.
Oh, and for anybody that's tuned in listening, we've decided to make our podcast half CM mentors and half football. So going forward, that's our new theme. And we're equally as bad at that. So
I would not make it as a sports commentator.
Oh, no, not at all. Well, Matt, if you want, I'll kill some time and take a stab at Shane's question here.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah. So Shane's asking, always been the type to work through the talking. However, going into a few different companies, there's some obvious challenges of not being the most outspoken person. So what have we dealt with, and how have we done some things to address that, so to speak? And I guess, my answer to that, Shane, would be, I'm actually pretty similar in a lot of ways that I like to do my job. I prefer to be the guy in the meeting that's sitting back and listening more than speaking. To me, that allows me to kind of see what's going on in the room, kind of read the body language, read how people are reacting to certain things. And, sometimes that tells you a lot about the different subtleties of what's happening in the project and with the people that's taking place there. So to me personally, I don't have an issue with being the one that's the most quiet. Now, there are definitely some things that come up and some challenges when you're not outspoken. Generally, the people that are louder, for that simple fact, they get heard more, and so they could be the first that might get opportunities that you're looking for. And so that's where I would just challenge that you got to step outside of the comfort zone a little bit. And it could be one-on-one conversations too, though. It could be, because sometimes when you're in a meeting, for example, maybe it's not the most appropriate time to bring up a certain issue, especially if it's around somebody, where you're going to challenge that person and put them on the defensive. That's more of an appropriate office or one-on-one conversation, I would say. So to me, there's a couple different ways. you speak up during a meeting, interview, whatever it is, or you do it that one-on-one, that more personal touch too, that more that level that kind of allows you to have a more intimate's not the right word, but let's use more intimate conversation. So, what do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think maybe Shane's questions, about trying to grow your career and letting your work do the talking, and maybe less of not being, maybe not like talking yourself up necessarily, right? I've definitely, I guess, been victim to the same thing as well, where I sit back and think like, I've worked with 3 different companies in my career, and I've definitely seen where if you don't speak up and kind of promote yourself a little bit, and if let your work do the talking, because I've always been the same way as well. Like, generally speaking, most people aren't really paying that much attention to you, bluntly, right? They're thinking about themselves, and I mean they have to. They have to think about their job, they think about their career, and all those sort of things. So you definitely, I think, need to speak up and at least show or describe or tell that you're wanting to take on some more leadership. You're wanting to take on a higher bit of responsibility, and so I do think you do gotta speak up and be your own best advocate.
Yeah, well, and to that point too, Matt, I think that's probably something that managers and stuff look for as well. Is if you're going to take that potentially next role, whatever it could be, and at some point maybe you start managing people, or at some point you're a subject matter expert, or whatever that looks like. You're going to have to get more, a little more outspoken, I would say, in some of those situations.
I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking about stuff, and when I was talking about taking on more responsibility. If you're just doing, if you're, as a quote, just doing RFIs and submittals, which kind of an entry level project manager might be doing, to really kind of put yourself out there, talk to your project manager. Maybe start leading the meetings. If you're a general contractor, maybe start leading the OAC meeting, or if you're a subcontractor, maybe start leading your staff meetings, your internal, whether it be daily huddle, weekly huddle, whatever you guys are doing, with the trades guys. Just kind of really start working towards more of a leadership and taking more responsibility, and people start standing out. People start noticing.
Yeah, they definitely do. Well, and for somebody that I have people working for me, it's that I definitely notice that when they take on more than I've asked them to do, or when they volunteer to do something like that too. That's really not necessarily what their job description is, but either it helps me out or it just gives them the opportunity to grow. I mean, that's something that good managers do, and they're trying to find the opportunities for anybody, for someone to grow, someone who's one of their other employees that they're supposed to be in charge of. And so seeing that kind of initiative is also something that really makes people stand out, in my opinion.
So Kyle, as a business owner, I mean, you got some employees. What is, aside from, kind of raising your hand and volunteering and saying yes, what's another kind of maybe uncommon thing somebody can do to kind of really stand out and kind of get ahead, or maybe work towards the next promotion?
I think one of the best things, and this is something that I had a former boss say to me, is in regards to trying to plan a few steps ahead, maybe of what your boss or your manager is thinking. And this could apply to a lot of different topics, so it's kind of hard to talk to a very specific one in this case. But let's just talk in general. If you have something that you're working on with your manager, project, or whatever it is, and if you can anticipate what the needs are going to be for maybe the next step, or even one that's far down the road, that's something that really stands out. It's kind of thinking about the job that you want to have in the future. Maybe it's not your current role, but like thinking how your manager would think, that kind of a thing. Trying to anticipate what some of those needs could be, and then even if you don't know how to necessarily get to that point, at least expressing that you know what's coming up in the future. That is a good thing, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I kind of wrote about it when on LinkedIn. I did those 22 hacks series, 22 hacks for, I forget what I called it, 22 hacks for younger generation of construction professionals, or whatever I called it.
Yeah.
But one of them was, and this is something that actually a colleague of mine said, he knew when the assistant PM was ready to become a project manager, when they could create their own to-do list. Mm-hmm. And at first, when we first said that, I was thinking, like, man, that's such a, create your own to-do list, that's easy. But I got to thinking about it, it's not just creating a to-do list, I have to go answer these emails. It's actually thinking steps ahead and really thinking through the process, the entire construction management process, right? Or the construction process of saying, okay, well, first we have to do this, and then we have to do this, and then I need to call them because I need to make sure that they're doing this. And really, when you can create that level of to-do list, you really understand the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like you're taking, I would say, our skills that we're learning and developing as construction managers, and you're applying it to, to your own career, if you will, right? Because we're always looking forward as construction managers. Our job is to plan ahead. I mean, if we're only firefighting, working on today's problems, we're not really doing our job, in my opinion. We need to be looking at next week, looking at our 3-week look aheads, looking at our phase and our milestone plans, and look at what's coming up so we can anticipate the problems. And so, to me, take that and apply it towards your career path and your the growth that you want to see. Easier said than done, but
way easier said than done.
Yeah.
I mean, just another, actually kind of going with that, along with your to-do list, something else that's really helped me be successful is creating a follow-up list. And what that means is, so many times you send an email to somebody or you give them a phone call and then say, hey, I need you to do this, right? And they say, okay, yeah, I'll get it to you. And I'll get it to you tomorrow. Well, tomorrow comes and goes, and next week comes and goes. Next thing you know, 3 weeks comes and goes, and you kind of drop the ball because they were supposed to do that for you, right? And they dropped the ball, but it really kind of makes the whole team look bad. So creating a to-do list, but then also creating that follow-up list to kind of keep making sure the other people like on the project team as a project manager, making sure everybody's hitting their deliverables and kind of chipping in to what you're doing.
Yeah. No, that's another great point. And just on a tangent for a second here, that reminds me of like somebody who might be transitioning to more of a sales or a BDE role at some point. That's almost like working with a CRM or a customer relationship manager, where you're developing your leads and your opportunities. You're putting them into the CRM tool to help you track and keep an eye on those opportunities and leads. And it also reminds you, it says, hey, you haven't talked to this person in 14 days. This lead's getting cold. You better ping them again and ask if there's a need here for upcoming jobs. And funny thing is, what I keep finding, I swear, is that it's just a matter of asking the right person at the right time, and just being there when that door gets unlocked, that now you can open it, and being the one to open that door. That's huge with that. And end of tangent.
That was a good tangent. Any other caller questions?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear some more.
I'd invite somebody to call in, but I'm afraid they're going to break the system. Marty's frustrated. He keeps texting me.
It happens. Not a big deal. It was a great first start, so we'll have to do it again.
Have him back on and record it and do the second half.
And I guess next time we can do football the first half. We can do CMS. So let's see, Matt. Career growth. What else you got here? Let's just start going with it.
Yeah. So I think too, providing more value to the company. I'm just thinking of ways that I've seen in my career that helps people stand out, especially in a smaller company. A bigger company may be a little more difficult, but I'm not saying it's not doable. But I mean by creating more value, like maybe coming up with another product line or another. Marty's trying again. Maybe. I know Marty too. One of the ways I'll kind of telling his story is, we were a fairly small company back when he started. He said like 26 employees, but we were trying to expand offices. So from being in Corpus Christi, we had one guy move to Houston to start up the Houston branch, and basically he was the business development guy. And then so they needed somebody to go manage the projects. So Marty put his hand up, and so he moved to Houston and helped build up the Houston region. And so by doing that, he became the VP of the Houston office over time as it grew, right? And then once it grew to the point of needing a VP, he became the VP. So he kind of created that own career growth for himself.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and especially as a company's growing too, they're experiencing different growth pains, because for a company to go, and of course I'm not the expert. This is what I've read a lot about. For companies to go from 0 to 5 employees is a lot different than, let's say, 5 to 10, or maybe 10 to 20, 20 to 50, whatever that is. I mean, every company is probably going to be a little bit different for those numbers, and not just employees but revenue as well. But it's just generalizing here. For companies going from different stages of growth, they may not even necessarily know what they need. It could be a unique position that's not a formal C-suite executive position, or maybe it's not a project manager. Maybe it's a hybrid. Maybe it's a project management, business development, construction man. Who knows what it could be? So I think, to your point, Matt, looking out for those different opportunities and kind of getting creative can help sometimes too, because, like I said, maybe the managers don't really know what they need. I own a business. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what I need a year from now, per se. Hopefully I got somebody that can come in and help me figure that out.
I think too, I mean, in that, putting people around you that are smarter than you, right? You always hear that, but it's so true. Shane has another question. I'll ask this to you first, Kyle, and then I got my own answer, but it says, how would you best describe the difference in expectations and skill sets required from CM to PM to director/vice president? So I guess as you're progressing in your career.
Sure. So I guess kind of the way that I would say I've seen it, and at least I can just speak for what I've kind of gone through, my experience, is really one of the big changes from CM to PM is the level that you're looking at the project. As CM, of course, you're looking at everything construction. You're looking at all the budgets, the RFIs, of course, the day-to-day construction coordination, managing all of that. When you get to the PM side, you're a little more concerned now on the value to the company and maintaining profitability, making sure that the CM has the resources he needs. And so to me, that's a big difference there, is you're kind of stepping a little bit less into just your role. You're starting to think more about the company from the company's perspective, and how does the company has to make money to grow and to stay in business. That's just how it works. So kind of changing that hat around a little bit to start more thinking about from the company side, from the owner of the company's side, the accounting department, whatever. How are they going to look at this, and how do my decisions really impact what the company needs? Now, getting from there now to, I would say, director VP level, now you're probably getting a little more removed out of the projects themselves. Many projects you're working on. As a PM, you're probably working on multiple projects too. But to the director VP level, now it's more strategy focused. It's more, this company has our 5-year growth plan, 10-year growth plan. We have all these different numbers and metrics we have to hit because the board of directors, has certain requirements and things that they need. So now you're thinking more along the lines of higher level strategy. Do we have the right PMs for the right projects? And then the PMs, do they have the right CMs? So it's almost like you're going up that ladder. And as you go up that ladder, you're getting more and more, I would say, more company, more higher level strategy focus. What do you think, Matt?
Man, I think you nailed it. Kind of working from the top back down, but when you get to the director VP, you always hear the phrase "working on the business" and not in the business. And that's kind of always stuck with me. When you get to there, I mean, you're really again trying to figure out how to grow the business, but you're also trying to you become responsible for the people more, right? And so you really got to learn how to develop your people, support your people, give the people what they need to grow and to be the best they can, so the company can be the best they can. That's kind of what I really see the biggest responsibility of a director VP is to really take care of the people. Working down, so as you go from PM to that, but as you go from CM up to PM, a construction manager, you're really learning, or assistant PM or project engineer or whatever you call it, and whatever your organization calls that. But I'm thinking, assistant PM, project engineer, fresh out of school. You're really learning, because you don't learn how construction management works in school. Even if you have a school construction management degree, you got to learn so much in the field, on the job training. So you're really just trying to learn the processes. You're trying to learn your company processes, but you're trying to learn how the trades interact with the project manager or the general contractor, how the general contractor interacts with the owner, how everybody interacts with the architect and the engineers, and all these relationships, and how the process works. And not only that, but how do you build a building? How does it really come together? What are the sequences? What are the phases? How does, you're learning the technical parts of literally what is no hub pipe and how does it come together? All these sort of things, because you'll be responsible for quality assurance and I mean, you can't really write a good RFI or process of submittal unless you know the actual construction science bits of it. So as a CEM, you're really learning the nuts and the bolts, the block and tackle type things, how it all really works. And then a project manager, you've really developed a understanding of the process of how the project comes together, and then you're sort of an orchestra director, right? You're trying to make sure all the pieces are in place. You're making sure everyone's doing their job. You're making sure you got your follow-up list, and if the architect's not getting back to you with an answer, then you're answering that for making sure you're pinging them and getting that stuff going, and those sort of things.
And that's a great way to put it too, Matt. It's almost like you're at each step your responsibilities for what you're being held to succeed and what you have to accomplish. It changes a little bit as you go higher up the chain, up to PM, up to the director level. You're getting more focused on how do you have the right people, the right resources, and then you keep going up that ladder and you start really thinking about, okay, now at this higher level here, I'm getting less away from the nuts and bolts, like you're saying, and I'm getting more focused on, okay, how do we get the toolbox that has the right nuts and bolts in it, and then get a little higher than that. Do we have the right vehicle to get the toolbox? I mean, there's 1,000 different analogies and different metaphors you could use, but yeah, it's just. That's really good. Angela will be proud on you for that with the human side of construction. That's good.
Man, ever since that conversation with Angelo, I mean, I already shared all those thoughts and stuff, and I went through a leadership program through AGCM, and it was awesome, and it really drilled that into you, and it really kind of took that out of you and made you really understand what leadership is, and but that conversation with Angelo was awesome. Really just kind of how the buildings support the communities, and it was just such a cool conversation.
Yes.
Marty, you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Looks like he's here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yay!
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I can't.
I'm not gonna say it's gonna last long. I can hear you guys all day long. You just can't hear me.
Fantastic. Kyle, Marty texted me. I don't know what's going on, but his power went out. His internet's out.
Well, of course it is.
And I just should have stayed at the office.
Good fun.
To do this.
So, Marty, just jump right back in. How would you, Shane has a question. How would you best describe the difference in expectations and skill sets required basically as you move up from a construction manager to a PM up to a director, vice president, kind of into maybe an executive role?
And what's the question? How to best do that?
Or what's kind of the differences in expectations and maybe your skill sets as you ascend?
Well, for me, I heard you guys talking about leadership, and I couldn't chime in, but to me is understanding leadership. Being self-aware, I think is huge. You need to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's what starts to differentiate you from an employee, from a manager to a true leader. You really have to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about everyone else, and doing more of the giving versus the taking. I think that's a big mindset shift that has to happen. But I think that's kind of the big thing that I would say. Going from a lower tier rank, kind of working your way up. You just have to start thinking about others. How are you going to mentor other people? How are you going to put the right people on the bus? As Jim Collins says, you got to put the right people on the bus. You got to put them around you, because ultimately that's who's going to make you successul. Everyone around you is what makes you successful.
I could talk about this for another 20 minutes, but I'll just say really quickly, Marty, you're spot on. And I mean, I like to think about it like the team effort. The coach wins the game, but he gives the credit to the players. I mean, we saw yesterday, right? They were giving the trophy out, and the coach is pulling Mahomes over, and that's what it's got to be. I mean, we all need our support networks. We can't do it alone.
Right.
We can only go so far alone. You need those people around you to leverage those different skills and those different strengths and understand the weaknesses. Well said.
Yeah. A little bit of a tangent. It was a thought I had a while back, but it was a shower thought. I think it was literally like in the shower and I had this thought, but sorry for that visual.
Do you have a whiteboard in the shower so you can write down your ideas?
No, but I need to get a waterproof case for my phone because I need to I get great ideas and I need to be able to input them into my notes on my phone.
That's right. It's always in the shower.
Anyway, so where was I? Oh no, so a construction project. This is like a microcosm of on a construction project, but it's more of a escape room. So what I mean by that is everyone thinks a construction project, you got winners and losers, right? It's a battle, right? But no, it's if you take a step back and look at an actual construction project, it's more of an escape room because there's only if one person wins, there's not one person that wins and everybody loses type thing. It's not a net zero. So it's basically the whole project team has to come together. You have to rely on everybody's skills and weaknesses to figure out this clue and figure out that clue and put all the pieces together to build something. And really, it's either the entire project team is successful or the whole project team fights and bickers and sues each other, and it's a losing experience for everybody.
Yeah, that's 100% right, Matt. And something for me, part of the reason I got into doing construction management and doing what I do is that I wanted to build something. I wanted to be a part of good things happening and people working together and not just pointing fingers at each other.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been super valuable. And to Marty's point too about developing that that team and having that mindset shift is for me personally, seeing my staff grow and seeing them do things that I have been wanting to see and watching them progress is way more important to me, and it's way more rewarding than anything that I accomplish on my own. So.
Yeah. And Kyle, I guess just a question.
It's actually,
sorry, Matt, real quick for Kyle. Do you look at your team as a team, like a sports team, or as a family?
Interesting question. Very good question. I guess I look at it as more of a team. In my opinion, and partly because I believe everybody has a little bit different positions they play and a little bit different things that they have to do to move the ball around the court, if you will. But It still takes that effort from everybody, and that ball can get dropped. And at the same time, if there's not a good coach, the sidelines that's helping direct the team and helping, and now going back to our conversation with Alex, Matt, doing that practice off the field. That's where it all comes together too, is you start executing these projects, you start executing your actual jobs, and do you know what to do? Has it been trained into you? And then, kind of applying that all, like I said, it to me is what makes a solid team. How about you, Marty? What do you think?
It's always been a struggle for me. I mean, with AGCM, our culture is employees first, family focused, and we always look as our internal people and internal employees as part of our family. I can't remember what podcast I was listening to something, and they started breaking down the difference between looking at your company or your employees as a family or looking at them as a team. And the way they explained kind of the family was the personnel versus objective. So if you have a family approach, you will always sacrifice the objective for the people, right? The people are first. If you're the team, like a sports team, it's always the objective over the personal. So you will always sacrifice the people for ultimately the goal or the objective. And I think you have both. I don't think you can have one or the other. I think you have to have both of them. As Matt knows, we're trying to change AGCM and kind of transform into a performance culture. And that is part of, the performance culture is really driving the goals and the betterment of not just the company, but betterment of the people. And if we all could be better, we'll all be better together, and then ultimately we'll be a great company. So I think you have to kind of balance it, right? Because you got to have the family aspect, but then you also have to operate as a team as well. So not really a black or white answer, but I think you have to mesh the two in certain situations, I think.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
there was a real good Harvard Business Review article. I think it was Harvard Business Review that basically said stop looking. I think that it was kind of a clickbaity headline maybe, but it was like stop looking at your company as a family and look at them as a championship sports team. And it touched on a lot of those things. And I don't know if it's from that article or not, but a big thing to me is a company, everyone has a role, right? You look at a football team, and some people, they just block, right? They're not going to be the quarterback. They're not going to carry the ball. They're not going to, score the touchdown, get all the glory. But they have such an important job to do as a blocker. And you've got the receivers, and their job is to catch the ball, right? So everybody has their role and their job, and sometimes you switch in and switch out and those sort of things. And you've got to be multi-talented to be able to do that. But at the same time, you support each other, but you've still got your role and your job, and so all those pieces have to come together to be successful.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd seen the same article, Matt. Sorry, go ahead, Marty.
No, I was just agreeing with Matt. It's so true.
The one thing we're an owner's rep firm, and Kyle, you are as well. I think I told this to Marty a while back. Like, I had another shower thought where I was like, man, like, we don't do anything. And I think I told him, Marty's like, what? And I was like, well, we say that. We're not building the building, right? We don't have people out there swinging hammers. We're not drawing the drawings. We're not the architect. I said, like, we're not doing anything, but we have such an important role of leadership and making sure all the pieces are coming together. And that's way harder than building the building at sometimes, right? Providing that leadership. Because everyone no one really works for us, right? They all work for the owner. We work for the owner. So we have a lot of responsibility and none of the authority. And so even, this is a tangent here, but, we're talking about as, leadership and how important it is. It's our whole role as a company, our whole role as the owner's rep industry is really to provide leadership on these projects.
Yeah, I agree with that, Matt. And I like to think of it that we get paid to think. I mean, like you're saying, I don't turn the wrenches. I don't stand up the walls. I don't pour the concrete, install the plumbing. I don't do any of that with my hands on sites anymore. But I do get paid to think about those things, and I get paid to take that role of being that owner's rep and understanding. That's where our role is different, of course. Is we're not the GC. We're focused on getting this building built. We're the owner's rep, where we need the building built because, as my owner has equipment coming in 3 months, and there's steps A through F that need to happen for that to take place. Otherwise, now my owner gets charged with stocking fees from their vendors, and then there's all kinds of coordination issues. So our role is just different with what we're thinking about, what we're worried about. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? Is we're there to represent the owner. We're there to understand their side of things, not just the construction side of things, and then offer our input, offer our expertise, on their behalf, but to them.
Mm-hmm. So, Marty, since you're back, you missed the question Shane had earlier.
Okay.
He said, as I've always been the type to let my work do the talking. However, going to a few different companies, I noticed the challenges of not being the most outspoken person. Have you guys dealt with that, and what did you do to be more seen, so to speak? So I think what he's asking is, if you're a type of person, right, like you just let all your work do the talking, but you're not maybe self-promoting yourself, you can definitely get left behind.
Absolutely. And I hate to say that, or I hate to agree with him. I mean, but that's so true. And I think it's part of what kind of Kyle was talking about early on is you've got to get out of your comfort zone, right? You have to do things, and you have to force yourself to do things that are uncomfortable, to get out of that comfort zone. I mean, just within AGCM, we have some of those individuals that may not be, they're not the squeaky wheel, so they're not getting the grease, we'll just say. But from a technical standpoint, they may be doing, a phenomenal job, but they're getting overseen, or they're maybe being overlooked just because they may not be speaking up, or they may not be making themselves present. They may not be putting themselves into situations where they can have some conversations with individuals that may, catch someone's eye. And even though it may be uncomfortable, if you're an introvert and you're trying to be an extrovert, it sometimes just might have to happen. I mean, I hate saying it, but I mean, there's politics in everything. Everything we do, there's politics. And, you know, I don't like to call it politics, but it's influence, right? I mean, there are people that you can have as your influencers. You can be an influencer, and you can be one that's being influenced. So I think you got to think of it from that perspective is how are you as an individual, are you influencing other people? Do you have a set of influencers that could kind of do the influencing for you? And then you need to understand who is the people or who are the individuals that have to be influenced that can make those decisions. That may sound like a convoluted mess, but it's all about influence, which is leadership. But it really just comes down to kind of the politics of our day and age. I mean, there's politics in everything.
What a great point. And I just want to add really quick onto that, Marty. And one of my big things is perception, because I've learned that one the hard way many times. You can do the best job you want, but if nobody sees it, it's not going to get you anywhere. You have to get people to see what you're working on, get that perception that shows that you are, in fact, you know, the A player that you're trying to be. And
it's doing it in a humble way. So it's not you know, you don't want to be bragging about it, right? You want to do it in a humble way. I mean, that's you have to find that happy medium for sure.
Exactly.
That's the tricky part, because, you know, everybody hates that word politics, right? It's just got such a negative connotation. I think just probably because it has been a negative thing for so long. But Marty, how can somebody do that in a positive way without being the suck up, or without, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a way to do it. There's a way to communicate it. There's a tone to do it. Obviously, you're never wanting to throw anybody else under the bus. But I go back to the very, very beginning. What I was saying is, if you see something that could be done better, don't just talk about it, or just don't bring up the idea or bring up the issue. Come with a solution, right? Because I think in our positions, as you hear those things, at least for me, I catch on to a lot of things. Wow, okay. If someone has brought an idea to me, or has an entrepreneurial spirit, has brought something to me, and has a plan laid out, yeah, sure. For that individual, it may take some extra hours. It may take some hours outside of the 40 hours of the work week. But that, to me, now I'm catching on to that person, or I'm seeing them, I'm noticing them, right? So I think it's, you got to put that extra effort in. And I know Kyle mentioned earlier too about value. You have to be able to, just like we do as owners reps, we have to show our value to the clients, whether you like it or not. I think that's in a small business and a large business as well. You have to be able to provide and show your value. And how you do that is, you know, different many ways to do that.
Well said.
Anybody in the audience left after the train wreck have any other questions for us?
I apologize for the train wreck. My internet went out. I've been on my hotspot, 2 different hotspots to try to get back on, and I don't know. My power went out. It's terrible. Of course, the only day I got to do something live, this is what happened.
You got a weather balloon floating over your house or something?
I'm not.
Not the balloons.
No. It's definitely not a Wi-Fi weather balloon, that's for sure. Man.
Maybe it was and he got shot down. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Oh.
So while we wrap up, Marty, this was a chopped up episode, but is there any other tips or feedback or anything you can give for people, you know, really kind of entry level, maybe mid-level, really trying to grow their career, kind of stand out, kind of create their own opportunities?
Yeah, you know, I think
any party shots?
I think it's just part of creating your own path. You have to create your destiny. You just can't do what you're hired to do. I think you really need to think about what are the other things you can bring to the company, to the organization. How do you get involved with the community? How do you make yourself present? Early on in your career, you know, don't say no, but say yes. If you're invited to an event that's on Saturday night, say yes to it. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know what individuals you may see, what table you may sit at. That gives you that presence that you're looking for. So I'd say early career, you say yes, never say no. And then you just need to be thinking past what your job description says. Maybe you want to see what the job description, the next step is, or what is that ladder? What's the next step beyond where you're at right now? So you can start working on those things or training yourself. And most important, you have to talk to your supervisor. You have to talk to your boss. You have to talk to your leader or your mentor and emphasize to them what you want. Because sometimes they don't know what you want. They're not a mind reader. They need to be told. And I'm guilty of that. I needed to be told some things in the past to really see something. So I just think you can't be shy, and you must want to speak up.
Great points there. Great stuff.
So you touched on, you go to the Saturday night event, right? And you don't know who you're going to sit with. And I mean, you may go and you may end up sitting with the president of the company. And all of a sudden if you're in a larger company, right? And maybe
Sure.
you don't get that FaceTime with them, but having that, you may go and you may have a great evening with them when all of a sudden you're standing out. And I know it's something me and you talked about a lot, Marty. And I think I actually got this from Sahil Bloom. If y'all don't follow him, go find him on Twitter. He's awesome. But the luck surface area, and how just the more you say yes, the more you put yourself out there, you're kind of creating this luck surface area where something may stick, right? You may go to the Saturday night thing and the owner of the company's there, then you're having a conversation, and then something, say, oh man, you'd be great to have this promotion. Or you never know what's going to happen, right? But you're increasing that luck surface area.
Yep. That's right.
If you want momentum, you have to create it yourself. That's a quote that I stole from a book recently. Take it to heart.
I love that.
Good point. Yeah.
So, well, everybody, I guess we'll wrap up there. And so, Marty, I appreciate you. I don't know what you had to do. Went and rewired your router or something to rejoin us. So.
Yeah, I apologize. It's Murphy's Law. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And of course, it's the day that something was live. So I apologize.
All good, man. It was fun.
It was so fun, Marty. Good talking with you. We'll have to do it again.
I appreciate it. Nice to meet you, pal. Thanks, Matt.
We'll have you back on whenever you make sure you have a good hardwired internet.
Yes, please do. It'd be great.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, audience, for participating. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.